that caused people to say, who was in charge? How were they watchful? Why were they turning a blind eye? If indeed they did turn a blind eye, why were they accepting? And who was paying attention to this? Because people in Tennessee talk to me and they say, how could it be that a private citizen could end up being surveilled and everybody just say, well, it happened, and move on? So I know I'm over time, Mr. Chairman. I'll send my time back to you. And Ms. Yates, thank you for being with us today. I yield back.
Thank you. And I think our last senator is Senator Booker, but just to put a fine point on that, see if we can all agree with the following. Ms. Yates, when it comes to the FISA warrant application regarding Carter Page, there seems to be widespread system failure, and we're trying to correct that. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do, is make sure that never happens again. Thank you. Senator Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Yates, Acting Attorney General, as Acting Attorney General, there's many occasions where I felt like you stood up for justice and actually brought a lot of important integrity to the system and to our institutions. And I remember being very grateful that you ordered the Justice Department not to defend President Trump's unlawful travel ban, for example, against 7 majority Muslim countries. And I've appreciated the way you conducted yourself in that way. And I want to sort of drill down into some of your understandings as we see the Justice Department continuing under the Trump administration. In many ways, I believe it's been politicized and manipulated instead of focusing on those interests of justice and democracy. So, for example, we know that Russia wants to interfere in our election this year. And just as it did in 2016, and we know that they're wanting to help the Trump campaign. But Attorney General Barr has repeatedly struggled, including in a House hearing just last week, to confirm that it would be wrong and illegal for the president to solicit or accept foreign assistance in elections. So I'd like to just pose this question to you. Is it legal or appropriate for a presidential candidate or campaign to solicit or accept help from a foreign government in an election?
No, it's not. And beyond that, I would hope that they would report that to law enforcement.
I'm grateful. And to that point, just to make that more succinct, if a campaign hears from a foreign government in the offering of electoral assistance, they should report it to the FBI immediately, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And, there's a lot of areas, I believe, where Attorney General Barr has obfuscated or in some ways muddled what I think is not only legal clarity, but moral clarity. We've seen him and other Justice Department leaders intervene in prosecutions arising from the Russian investigation of the 2 close associates of President Trump. I think Michael Flynn and Roger Stone are examples of that. We've seen Attorney General Barr engineering the removal of U.S. attorneys who apparently were not sufficiently friendly to the president's personal interests. And we've seen Attorney General Barr distort the findings of the special counsel Mueller's report on the Trump campaign's link to Russian interference and President Trump's later efforts to obstruct that investigation. And so do you think actions like these are consistent with the Justice Department's duty, as you said, and I quote you, to always seek justice and stand for what's right?
I think that the highest responsibility of any lawyer at the Department of Justice is to ensure that you're going about doing your job in a way that will inspire the public trust. And the public has to be assured that the rules apply the same to everyone. There's no people who aren't treated specially, and that the law is not used as a cudgel to go after people who are enemies or not friends. And that is the most sacrosanct obligation of the Department of Justice.
And so based on your 3 decades of experience at the Justice Department under presidents of both parties, do you think the department's recent attempts to dismiss the Flynn case have damage the credibility? Are they unprecedented in terms of what you've seen under presidents of both parties? And what do you think should be done about this going forward?
Well, I think anytime you have something like this, where there is certainly a appearance as you start there that someone who is close to the president is being treated differently. And then when you look at the underlying facts and you see that, in fact, positions are being taken by the Justice Department that have never been taken in any other similar cases before. And the fact that no career person would sign that pleading, that all does have to give you some pause.
And then last week, Attorney General Barr refused to agree that he would wait to release a report by the U.S. Attorney John Durham until after the election in November. I'd like to enter to the record a New York Times article from today entitled, Will Bill Barr Try to Help Trump Win the Election? The article details Attorney General Barr's apparent efforts to override key Justice Department policies and norms by deploying this and other investigations for political purposes. And if that article can be entered to the record, Mr. Chairman?
Without objection.
And so, Ms. Yates, the Inspector General's report stated that in the run-up to the 2016 election, you, quote, did not want to do anything that could potentially impact candidate Trump. That's on page 71 and 72. So why is it important for the Justice Department to avoid taking actions just before an election that could, again, I quote, potentially impact it?
This is an important principle that applies not just in an investigation of the president, but in any investigation that could involve an elected official. And, I prosecuted public corruption cases as an AUSA, and I'll tell you, we didn't take any action, whether it was a case involving a local sheriff or a governor or a senator. We wouldn't take any action that could potentially have an impact on the election. And that's not just to be fair to that individual, but also to ensure that the public has confidence that this power is not being used to try to impact an election. In this case, when you mentioned Trump, I have a very specific recollection of activity with respect to Paul Manafort and my talking to the FBI to make sure that they weren't doing anything publicly with respect to Mr. Manafort, even though he was no longer even with the campaign at this point, but that they weren't doing anything publicly with respect to Mr. Manafort, because that could be unfair to then candidate Donald Trump.
Well, I want to thank you. My time's expired. I just want to say that, look, I think that retrospective hearings where we're analyzing and looking to get to the truth are important, but to prioritize that over an oncoming election and with the international interference that we all know is going on, and with conduct of a attorney general that is possibly further eroding the independence of that agency that they run, in addition to undermining the sacrosanct ideals of an independent election. These are the things that we should be looking at right now to prevent what could happen in November that to me would be a serious blow to our overall democracy. And I'm hoping that these are issues that we can explore as a committee. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to go over time. And Ms. Yates, it's very actually good to see you again. I look forward to the next opportunity we have to connect.
Thank you. I believe that's our last senator. And just wrap it up, Ms. Yates, thank you for appearing. Just want to clear up some things that were brought up. Are you familiar with the Durham investigation?
That's all I know.
Do you know Mr. Durham?
I don't believe we've ever met.
Do you have any concerns about his doing something politically wrong? As far as you know, is he an honest man?
I don't know Mr. Durham.
Okay, so you don't have an opinion one way or the other?
I don't.
Okay. Is it okay for Mr. Durham to find out how the system failed when it comes to the FISA warrant application?
Well, I think the Inspector General did that investigation.
Yeah. Is it okay to hold somebody criminally responsible who lies to the court?
If someone committed a crime, yes, of course, it's okay to hold them responsible.
So if you knew that the dossier was no longer reliable, but you continued to give it to the court, would that be a crime?
Well, and I assume you're saying you because you understand I did not know.
No,
that.
no doubt in my mind, ma'am. I've never suggested that you presented false information to the court. Here's what I'm suggesting. Is it possible that one of the most high-profile cases in the history of the FBI involving the Trump campaign literally fell apart when it came to the Carter Page warrant application and people above were not told? It's a simple question. The intel analyst who did the 40-page memo in January and another one in March and April provided evidence to the system that the warrant, that the dossier was a bunch of garbage. Is it okay to find out who was told about that?
Well, again, Senator, I think that Inspector General Horowitz did that investigation.
No, he did
It's not up to
not.
me, Senator, to
No,
tell
ma'am,
you
he
what's
never
up to
asked. I asked him specifically, did you ask the intel analyst, did you talk to anybody about your findings? He said no, that he didn't talk to Comier McCabe about this. I believe you when you said that you didn't know the dossier was reliable, that if you'd known it was unreliable, you wouldn't have done it. The question for me is, how is it possible that people investigating this case were unaware that it fell apart? Is it okay for Durham to look at that, you think?
It's not my position to be saying what John Durham should do or not.
Okay, well, as a career professional, do you want people held accountable who intentionally lie to the court?
Certainly, I would say that if someone intentionally lies to the court, they should be held accountable.
Let's
yes.
talk about ethical duties. Do you have a duty to give the court and the defense exculpatory information?
If you're talking about Brady information, yes.
Yes.
But
So,
are you talking about a FISA court or a defendant in a criminal
either
case?
way, in the Flynn case, one of the reasons they want to drop it is because they found evidence exculpatory to the defense that wasn't provided, but we'll have them come in and talk about Flynn. What I want to let the American people know is I don't buy for a minute that there are only two people in the FBI who knew the dossier was garbage and they didn't tell anybody. And I want to make sure this never happens again. I believe you and Rosenstein did not know. I find it impossible to believe that Strzok, McCabe, and Comey were not aware of the fact that the subsource disavowed the dossier. That's what I'm trying to find. That's what I'm trying to put the puzzle together. So what will the committee do next? We're going to talk to the intel analyst and the case agent and two others who interviewed the Russian subsource in January, again in March, and again in April, and we're going to ask them, oh, by the way, did you tell anybody in the FBI that the reliability of the dossier is going down to 0? And if you did tell somebody, who was it? Then we'll decide as a nation what accountability they should have, whether it be being fired, going to jail, or whatever. That is the purpose of this investigation going forward, is to make sure that the biggest system failure maybe ever at the FBI is not repeated, to make sure that if the FBI is investigating a presidential candidate or a sitting president, that they're held account when it goes off track. I just find it hard to believe that the dossier was used 4 times to get a warrant against Carter Page, and nobody knew it was a bunch of garbage, particularly after the January interview of the subsource. I don't believe you knew. I don't believe Rosenstein knew. But the idea that we're going to blame these two people at the bottom of the pyramid is not going to go forward without some serious looking. So what will the committee be doing next? We're going to find out who knew what and when, and if they knew the dossier wasn't reliable and they continued to use it, they're going to be in serious trouble with the law. And Ms. Yates, I appreciate your service to our country, and we will keep the record open for appropriate period of time, and the hearing is adjourned.
to start the season. Meanwhile, the players have formed a unity group with a list of demands ranging from testing to transparency. The University of Connecticut announces they won't play football this fall. They're the first FBS program to cancel its year. WNBA Mystics return to action this evening when they face Las Vegas. Dave Preston, WTOP Sports.
All right, Dave, up ahead, police asking for your help as they investigate a local homicide. It's 1:17.
Are you interested in being the next real estate superstar in the D.C. area? Then listen up. Armando Montelongo from A&E's Flip This House has been using his unique talents for the last 10 years to turn aging houses, empty lots, and tax-forfeited property into a real estate goldmine. Now it's your turn to achieve success, security, and financial freedom. Just text Armando and he'll send you a free copy of his new book, Armando's Wealth Building Guide, a quick start to house flipping. And let him show you how to find the right properties and structure the perfect financing to flip houses for cash profits. It only takes a moment to text, an action that can set you on a path to success and prosperity. Text CHECK to 888-111. Now to get Armando's free book. Text CHECK to 888-111 right now to get your free book. Plus a free training class coming to the D.C. area that has very limited seating. Text CHECK to 888-111. That's text CHECK to 888-111 for your free book now. Individual results may vary. Paid for by Real Estate Training International.
Hi, it's Aaron, president of Window Nation. We have reduced pricing on all window styles by 50%. We also defer your payments for 2 years with no money down. All CDC guidelines are strictly followed throughout the entire process to ensure maximum safety. Call us at 1-866-90NATION or go to windownation.com to schedule a free in-home or virtual estimate. Get 50% off and no payments for 24 months. Call now.
It's 1:18. Traffic and weather on the 8s. Rita Kessler in the traffic center.
Situation on the Beltway, the outer loop of the Beltway.